or something. Feel free to email. Let me know when. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to NearFest. This is the Parks on the Air POTA DXpeditions. How many of you guys are activators? Okay, a few. So a few of you, and we have a couple of people online. And so what we're going to talk about is not just POTA activation, but really serious activations. What we say here on the slide, I hope you guys can see the slide, right? Maximum effort, maximum QSOs. We're a QSO making machine. So some history, how do we get here? So this kind of started, I mean, actually POTA has been going on for a long time, but it kind of really took off. And an ARL event called National Parks on the Air 2016, where we were tasked to go to all the national park units all over the country and put them on the air. And it kind of started slowly, and by the end of the year, it went insane. It went nuts. Over 1 million QSOs were made. I mean, people's life became about activating the next park. So I saw it, and every time I saw somebody spotted on the cluster, I could never hear them, even in a place that I should hear really well. What's with these guys? I mean, did they book the antenna? What's going on? So we decided our club, Radio Amateurs in Northern Vermont, our club's called W1NVT, W1 Northern Vermont. Our goal is for a maximum effort at each park. We're going to do like a little DXpedition for the day. And we started on August 7th, 2016, at Missisquoi National Wild River in Richmond, Vermont. So we only have 2 parks in Vermont. We have the Natural Wild River, and we have Billings Rockefeller down in Woodstock. Same thing in New Hampshire, only 2 parks. Right? You got the Appalachian Trail, that's kind of like not really a park. And so we went crazy. We had 3 stations. We had a 40-meter station, a 20-meter station, we were in tents. We had a 6-meter station. Didn't do much, but we put it up. And we banged out 677 QSOs. And most guys would get on and do an activation, they might report 10 people. It was over 600. And by the way, we went back to that park at the end of the year in December because we had that big push. We hit 1 million. And we made 1,211 contacts on 12/11. So the numbers are serious. And it was 11 degrees out. I'm not going to show here, but I had a picture of the thermometer in my car, 11 degrees when we started. So we had to allow for heating of the operating positions because it was kind of chilly. On October 16, 2016, right after this very Hamfest, a bunch of us trooped on down the road to the Lamprey Natural Wild River. So this, when you go in the back here in the fairground, you see a little river out there, that's the Lamprey River. We just went 10 miles up the river to Epping, and actually a place called Marion Folsom Blair Park. You may have heard it if you're from around there, and we activated that. And this is what it looked like. This is Paul A1SU, and right behind him, you see the Lamprey River. You can see it a little bit there. So you notice what we're using here. We have this big tuner. The amplifier's on the floor. Watt meter, and we usually use K-Freeze or something equivalent. And we got on, just said QRZ, National Parks on the Air, and gave the park number, and we had a pile up for the remainder of the afternoon. We had really, really good conditions and really, really great fall cover. The colors that you see in this picture. This is our 40-meter station, and I include this because, yeah, the colors are spectacular, right down to, this is Bob P1FRW, right down to his hat matching the leaves on the tree. So, who can tell me what's wrong with this picture, with this operator? See you guys paying attention here. Okay, what's missing? Where's the headphones? Yeah, right. And you can see he's like squinching forward, whatever. Headphones, very important. Very important, and there's a lot of activations where they forget that. So our usual guy brings his little Elecraft amplifier. He wasn't with us that day, so we got that. We have this big monster here. Kind of looks impressive there. And yeah, we had a hell of a time doing that part. And I told you about we went on 12/11 up to Richford Park, right? You can see the snow around the car. This is Bob's Toyota. It's sitting in the back. We took out the front passenger seat and stuck the computer here, and all the equipment's on the side. You don't need to look at the equipment, right? If you're running a pilot, you just look at the computer. And we had 2 generators running the station. We used little EU2000s. We had 1 generator running the station, another generator running the electric heat. So you can't sit there at 11 degrees very long. Your fingers get cold. So some more history. So during that year, I was also involved in some urban park activations. And I took the attitude, this was attitude setting. No park is created where I can't put up a good antenna. Not just a junky antenna, a good antenna. So, I mean, specifically, hustlers, buddy poles, mag loops, all that, those need not apply. By the way, I own the whole hustler line. Put it on my car, I don't try and use it for a fixed operation, right? I don't believe in compromise antennas. I want to put out the best signal I can. I want to work with anybody. Yes, a lot of people say that. And my operating thing is, life is too short for QRP. Now, that being said, I have UCC on 3.4 gigahertz. I just happen to run into it. I run 60 milliwatts on that band. Why do I run QRP there? Because that's all I got. I also sitting on a 4,000-foot mountain, that helps too. So some of the ones I did, we did this thing called Stonewall National Monument, which is Greenwich Village in New York City. It was just a 40-meter dipole, 15 feet high, this thing called Christopher Park. This is crazy stuff. So in this one, this is the Stonewall Inn here. They were rated, it's a gay bar. They were rated in 1969, and they made it like a national monument or something like that. I don't care about the politics of the reason. I just get out there, I'm going to make contact, right? Here's the dipole. I took a rock and just threw it into a couple of trees. This park is like 50 by 100, tiny little park. And the official boundary is basically that inn. And I asked, they wouldn't let me put an antenna on the roof, and the little park and the streets around it. And I have a compressed air cannon that we normally put these up with. I said, nah, I'm not going to bring that into an urban area to shoot at when you get the bomb squad. I don't think that would be a smart thing. So I set this thing up, and I'm sitting like on the ground operating, and radio and wires, and it just looks like a homeless guy. And nobody ever asked me in the 3 hours there what I was doing, but this is Greenwich Village. Weird is normal. Okay, so I mean, whatever, man, So, and then there was like a hurricane that weekend, and part of the dipole fell down, and I'm operating, and I see this woman all tangled up in the dipole, and everything. Hold on, keep the pilot going. I had to go there and rescue her, put the dipole back up. So we had some of our yucks about that. Let me see if we go back. Oh, okay, do that. So then the other one, I did a bunch of them, but these are the 3 that notable. The other one was the Theodore Roosevelt National Monument. This is where Teddy Roosevelt was born, brownstone on 21st Street in Manhattan. Now, you guys ever been to Manhattan? Radio operators call it the concrete canyons. Most streets, the sidewalk, the street, and the other sidewalk on the other side is 50 feet wide. Streets aren't that wide here, right? And 20 stories straight up. It's a canyon. And unfortunately, it points northwest and southeast. Well, ain't nobody does southeast, and northwest is good for work in Japan, not much else. And so then here's the brownstone, and you got this building kind of jutting out a little bit. I'm standing in the street to take this picture. And I asked that, can I stick the antenna on the roof? No, I can't do that. How about the 4th floor, which was not open? Yeah, you can go up there. So I threw the wire out the 4th floor. It's coming down like this, and you can watch my arrow, and I'm feeding it at the bottom, so it's like an L antenna. I had both vertical and horizontal radiation. Didn't matter much. The noise, the crud, was about S9 plus on both bands. This is where CW comes in. That was the only thing that was really going to work. And I'm sitting here on the front step. They don't use this door. So I'm sitting there, and this is like Gramercy Park in New York City. Women are getting out of cabs wearing furs and all this stuff. And there I am sitting there hunched over doing CW. I mean, you got to appreciate this stuff, right? Then the next park I did, the piece of resistance was the federal building on Wall Street. Okay, this is the federal building, dates back to the 1700s, and I got myself a full 40-meter dipole, 20 feet high, and I pressed George Washington into service to hold the thing up. Well, what do you mean by that? You pressed him into service? Well, this is what it looked like. That's George Washington, and I basically stuck a mast up his butt. and this is the mast, and the dipole is right here. It's fed this way, and it goes to the part of the building. By the way, you guys recognize this building over here? Yeah. New York Stock Exchange. Wall Street's right in front of us. So I said, did the cops bother you? I said, we never serve cop all day. I said, some guy came by and said he was the block captain. I said, you have permission to do this? I said, actually I do. Because I talked to the manager at the federal hall. He said, don't burn the building down. We just take care of it. I said, oh yeah, we don't wreck anything. I was going to use George's hand to hold up the dipole, but the statue was made of metal and we get some serious detuning. So I said, nah, I don't think I'm going to do that. So here it is looking from the front. So everyone's taking pictures of this, by the way, with the antenna right here. That's the antenna right there sticking up. And this is Pete Kovac, K0BAK. If you're any bit involved in Parks on the Air, he's activated about 10,000 parks or whatever. And so we got together, you know, to do this because it's logistically difficult. Like the first question is, where do you park your car? And no, I ain't taking my gas station and riding the subway. Not happening. This was done on the day after Christmas. So everything was closed. Wall Street's closed to cars, it's pedestrian wall. So we parked around the corner and just wheeled everything in. And you say, well, boy, he looks like the Michelin Man there. It was 32 degrees and raining. We're talking about really miserable conditions. And even all, I look the same thing, we're all puffed out, wearing a lot of layers. Even with that, it was very uncomfortable. So here's the operating position next to one of those portables, right? I'm sitting on the cement, which is sucking the heat out of my body. I'm using my little DX70. And with a straight key. So, I mean, yeah, this is bare bones operation because we had to kind of carry everything in. And we used Pete's LiPo battery, which kept me on the air. Now, the thing that killed us, we did about 250 contacts, something like that. This little laptop did not have power for it. And when the battery, after 2 or 3 hours, died, that's it. I said, Pete, well, if you want to sit here, I can go back to the car and get some paper lights. No, let's go home. So I'm going to talk about making sure you have backup battery for everything. Right, so that was the 2016 Parks on the Air. So in 2017, K1VIF, Bob, he's in our club, he created Vermont Parks on the Air. And we were specifically now trying to activate all 59 Vermont state parks. And he realized that he actually coordinated with us. So when we go to a state park, we say, hey, we're going to activate. They know what we're talking about. They've heard about us. And we got together with a program called Worldwide Flora and Fauna. It's based out of England, I think. They've been around since 2012, and they've been doing this Parks on the Air thing, which is really insanely popular in Europe. Okay, and then they had those numbers, KFF and some 3-digit number, 31, 21, or whatever. And most DX operators still support that program. And then in 2017, this new program came on, it's called Parks on the Air, called POTA. It broke away. They had a big fight or whatever. I really don't even want to know the details. And so now you hear numbers starting with K with no FF, or VE with no FF and 4 digits. Most of the original parks, the original state parks, they have the same number except one is K, one is KFF. But since they've added new parks, and they're all different numbers and nobody knows where the hell they are anymore, it's kind of crazy. So the problems with the two groups, they don't get along with each other. They don't interface in any way. And some park numbers are the same, some are different. Now, I upload to these programs. I have to send an ADIF file. The file has to be different because one is looking for K numbers, one's looking for KFF numbers. So I'm sitting there running the computer doing all this extra homework. I'm not crazy about it, but since we do work a lot of DX stations, we support both of them. So, I mean, to be blunt about it, I really prefer operating and not dealing with the politics. And try to keep out of it, but it's kind of hard and it's too bad. So this is what the WWFF website looks like. This is what POTA website looks like. Neither of these two websites are really intuitive. They kind of have to think your way through them. What? Well, I was trying to be diplomatic. But yes, somebody agrees with me on that. Now, here's the problem with those activations. And I hear these guys come on here. It's basically many of the activates can't be heard by anybody because the programs are looking for you to activate the most number of parts. So this is done at the expense of trying to work a lot of people. All you need to do is work 10 people and it counts, right? So you get the credit for activating a part. And it's really, what's the point of this really? You go to the park to work 10 people, so what? I want to work a lot of people. So most activations only go on for an hour. You know, the guy gets on for an hour, however long it takes them to make 10, 15, 20 contacts, and they run away. They go to the next park or whatever they do. It doesn't allow for propagation changes. And I'll tell you, the propagation at 11 o'clock in the morning when we start is quite a bit different than the propagation at 5 in the afternoon. It's usually shut down. Okay, the people have usually a window of an hour where they get the good propagation where I can hear them and they can hear me. And then later on, they can't hear me, or earlier on, they can't hear me. So being on for a while does make a big difference. Most of these guys using poor, inefficient antennas. I mean, you know, the whip on your car, I mean, please. I mean, you know, not much of an antenna. Or, you know, I tell my friend, it says, tripods are for cameras, not for antennas. If you have an antenna on a tripod, don't do that. Or they'll put up a dipole like on a 10-foot mast. Well, that's too low. It'll work, but not great. We're shooting antennas 50 feet to the trees. And that means that when we go to a park, there's 50 trees there. That's what they require. QRP station. So, yeah, I got my little QRP station. Yeah, the problem is you guys can't hear you. So, and then there's a poor choice of bands. I'm like, well, I'm going to operate 17 meters, or I'm going to operate 30 meters. Yeah, the problem is not as many people are on those bands as 20 and 40. That's just the way it is. And then the activators to search accounts just turn around looking at them. And you know how I know this? They're all calling me. They're all calling me. I have a big platform, they're all going park and park, and I'm working these guys. So if they're calling me, that means they're not calling CQ. How can you find them if they're moving the BFO up and down, right? We have this argument every year field that we tell our get on the air station. I don't want you guys shifting around. Take a frequency, call CQ. Well, I don't call CQ, they'll find them eventually. So, yeah, they can't find them. So the net result of all this is only the stations, only ham stations with the largest and best antennas are the ones that are going to work the parks. Guys who have little modern stations, you know, a little dipole at 25 feet off the ground and 100 watts, they can't even hear a lot of the parks. They get frustrated. You know, eventually they'll work a few of them, but you can't work a lot. And I know because I tried listening for them, can't hear them at all. So what we do in the DXpedition mode, so we will go usually three guys, and we'll put 2 stations on the air, 2 separate stations, one on 20, one on 40, separate antennas, the whole thing. We usually pull them apart by about 200 feet or so. And the antennas and dipoles 40 to 50 feet up in the trees. Right? A dipole in a tree works really well. I mean, it's not going to work as well as a 3-element Yagi. We could do that, but that takes a lot of time to put it together. So we put the dipoles up. We get that whole station on the air, 2 stations on the air at 45 minutes. 2 stations to run. And we use high power. So I'm an old buzzer type of guy. I have an SB200. My SB200 gig amp was like 57 years old, something like that. It's been rebuilt a few times, whatever. Bob uses his KPA 500, a little Elecraft amp. Okay, don't get the same job done. Why do we go to the full kilowatts? A lot more effort to get on the air. You know, you need 220 volts for those big amplifiers, a lot of weight. But there is a big difference between 100 watts and 500 watts. We call it band presence. And, you know, and people know that you're there. We generally do a 5 to 6 hour operation, and we do CW when needed. Usually we'll shoot the phone, but sometimes you need to do the CW because the phone's not working. And lots of people hear us and work us. And I'm talking about 400 to 800 QSOs. 400 is when we do a single station and the propagation really stinks like it is now. And you know, we do 800,000 QSOs sometimes. Guys, keep it down. I'm hearing you guys too loud. So, we also work a lot of DXpeditions. We're in Vermont, so we're operating in Vermont. And Vermont's pretty closer to Europe than anywhere else except Maine, right? So we have a good path into them, and they love working us because they get credit for the parks. And we say anyone with a halfway decent station, if they're running 100 watts to a reasonable antenna, we'll end up working them if they try enough. How to set up an activation. So if you guys have done this before, you know, but if you guys are looking to do this, these are the kind of steps you got to do. Pick your park. Where are you going to go? You have to pick a valid park. Recognize and have a park number. You go on either the POTA or the WWF site and you look for locations. And we have 59 parks just in Vermont alone. Actually, it's more than that. 59 state parks. I think they have state forests and all these other things now, right? Then when you find the park, go to Google Earth and look at it from the satellite view. What is it you're getting yourself into? Where is the car? You got to put the car somewhere. If it's a walk-in park, yeah, you can walk in with your QRP radio and your loaded whip. But like I said, you're going to be really weak. I'm not putting my amp in the backpack. I can't put anything in the backpack. You know, the days of schlepping stuff all over a park is over for me. So I got to be able to drive and park the car there. You often operate at the car, so I'm going to look for a place where I can put the car, you can put the antenna, and make it happen. There's some parts that have been very challenging, I think, but that's the first thing is use Google Earth, identify your spots, and then do reconnaissance. If it's not that far away, we actually go in and take a look, see what we can do, talk to the ranger, find out how, make sure you fit in with their plans. Know how to get there. You don't want to spend half the day getting lost. And I mean, by knowing how to get there, don't just rely on your GPS, because GPS is screw up often. I mean, you want to go to Google Earth and look at the directions and actually see if it makes sense. Are they taking you down a road or are they taking you down a Jeep trail? I mean, that's important stuff. Know your setup time. It should be under an hour. If it's taking you longer than that, practice at home. Have all the stuff in your car, unpack it, put something up at your house, see how long it takes. It's quicker and easier to have people to help. I'll tell you that right off the bat. If you're by yourself, you can still do it. Have a plan for lunch and drinks there. I forgot to bring lunch once. It's like, around 1, 2 o'clock, my stomach starts to grumble, like, hey, I got nothing here. What am I going to do? So that's an important thing. You've got to take care of yourself. You pre-announce your activation. So both POTA and WWF have a place where you can put down where your activation, what park you're activating, what band you're going to be on, anything you want to do about that. And you want to pack carefully the night before. How careful? Pretty much this last statement. The activation is pretty much over if you forgot the power cable in your transceiver. Okay, you've been there, you know that, right? I forgot the amplifier cleaning line once, but we made one out of a piece of wire. But you don't want to do it with your power cable. You can screw that up.
I got my coax jump up between my tuner and the rig. The whole left in Hampshire.
I bring a lot of coax jumpers, so.
I should have, yep.
Yeah. The field day, I don't do this for park activation. Field day, and we have a pretty complicated field day setup. I build our field day setup in my living room, not in the shack. The shack is already here. I actually build it in the living room with all the parts and pieces and put the station on the air. Make sure everything works. And then I stick it in boxes with the car. Because like I said, one little thing will sink it. So packing to the park. I took I have lists. I don't do anything. I don't take a trip to the toilet without a list anymore. Right? I come here to this show, I have a list of what I got to bring. Right? And so this is my list for the park. So, you're talking about things like the radio, the power cord, the multi-output strip, because I got to plug in the radio, the amplifier. I have 2 computers I got to plug in. I have a heater that I plug in. So, yeah, there's a lot of things going on. 12-volt power supply to run your radio. Sometimes you might want to bring a spare. that goes, everything goes. The amp and the keying line, the tuner, and a watt meter. I would bring a tuner. You never know what's going to happen. And here, 4 pieces of RG, either 8 or 58. I use 8 because I'm running a little bit of power, and generally about 4 to 6 foot jumpers. I do CW, so keyer, paddle, the FD8 cable. If you want to do FD8, you got to bring that cable that goes between the rig and the computer, you know, that stuff. Computer, the power for the computer. And it wouldn't be that unwise to bring a second computer. Those things sometimes burp and go away, and you're going to find yourself logging on the back of a box or something if your computer stops, right? You don't want to do that. Headphones. Don't forget the headphones. The guy did an activation back in the POTA days. It was W3ATV or something. He actually activated St. Gaudens, which is here in New Hampshire. And he sets up, and it was kind of like, you know, everything I'm going to tell you, he didn't do that. His little QRP radio has got a little vertical antenna without a ground line. And he sets up on a picnic table, and as soon as he starts operating, 100 kids show up and start having lunch. It was a class trip, and they're all chittering away and talking, and you can't hear anything now they're talking. And he makes this disgusting face, and then they go away. He says, okay, now I can operate. And then the lawnmowers come out and start cutting the grass. And he like throws his hands up in disgust and says, bring the headphones. So yes, that's why it's important, because you don't know what's going to happen. Foot switch, I bring the foot switch for my other operators. I use box. They don't use box, I bring the foot switch for them. Boom headset, so hand microphone, no, we don't do that. Boom headset, deal. Bring all your adapters with you, because something may not work or whatever. Antenna, the feed line, balance, if you're using an open wire line, you want to have a balance somewhere. Barrel connectors if you need to connect coax. The antenna launcher, a compressor, the balls, the generator, make sure the generator has gas in it. That happened to me once. I only had half a tank, ran out. 100 to 200 feet of cable. Often I have to put the generator far away from me because I'm picking up electrical noise from the converter. Extra power cord, a line filter, electrical toroid. Keep the garbage from the generator out of your radio. Table and chair, that would be useful, right? Food and drink and spares of things. So where to operate? Where are you going to sit down and operate? Well, set up on a picnic table. I mean, the simple thing, set up on a picnic table or your own table right in the middle of the park, beautiful day, whatever. However, this is New England. What does it do here? What did it do last night? It rained. And on a couple occasions, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, what the hell is this? It's a sunny day and it's raining. And I really don't like my K3 getting rained on. And my amplifier, which has holes in the top and 3,000 volts in it, that is not good to get rained in that either. So I frown upon that kind of way of doing it. So you can set up in an existing shelter. You know, they have a little shelter at the park. It's great if you can swing it. Usually they rent those things out, but if no one's using it, go for it. Set up a tent or a canopy. Problem is now you have to allow time to set that up and take it out, set it up, and then put it away later. So you're using valuable time that you can be operating. And what I often do is I operate from the inside of my van. So in my van, I just put a bridge table in the back. I can take the middle seat out. The middle seat is never in my van. I have that table in there. I put all the equipment on there. I sit in the back seat, lounge or whatever. And the beauty of this, I take the equipment out. And all during COVID, and even still now, my wife doesn't really want to go into restaurants. We just call up the restaurant, bring it to the side of the car, we put it on the table, we already have the table set, we have drinks, we have music on the stereo, we have the lighting set low, and that is our dining room. You know what? We're going to keep doing that because it's a lot of fun. We don't have to deal with other people in the restaurant. However, my friend, he operates sometimes out of the front seat of his Toyota. That can cause you great physical pain. So you got to be careful with it. That's what this looks like. I think this is this is a K3, and it's on the front seat of a Prius. And yeah, you kind of get like, and after like an hour, you got, crap, doing the old man walk and everything. I had to take over for him in there. So yeah, you got to be careful with this. This is a more relaxing. This is out in the open. This is our table. This is Carl, 81DD. He's one of the traffic wardens here. And he's nice lounging here and enjoying himself. This is the KPA 500 helicraft fan. That's the auto tuner, the K3, and the computer. That's it. There's a little, just a 12-volt power supply back there somewhere. The generator's about 50 feet back of him. And he's just lounging, having a good time. It didn't rain that day. That's the good news. This is Bob that came with BIF. Pretty much the same station, a different park, same equipment. This is me operating. So this is my SP200. The green comes out really good. Yeah, it's kind of washed out on that projector. The SP200, my big tuner, the K3 watt meter, and the thing. That's it. You know, that's really all you need. And like I said, we're working them run right after the other doing that. So now we move this up a little bit. We put up a canopy. This is Camp Kilcare State Park in Vermont. This is like Champlain right up here. We got, you know, we always like to find a nice place where we have a good view or whatever. We got the barbecue here ready to make lunch. And this is my station with the SV200. We even had a spare computer going here and all that stuff. And if it rained, you know, we're out of the direct rain. Now we're doing inside. This is Bob KB1FRW. This is Vanagon. If you go down this path, you'll see it. And we have the radio set up there. And the beauty of this, you can just lay down and go to sleep. And this is what my van looks like. Look, shooting from the back hatch I left open. And this is the table I use. I got the amp and the tuner here, stacked on each other. Here's the K3. That's my Kia there, right in the little corner there. And the computer. And I can lean forward, which is less comfortable. A lot of times I just lean back and have the boom headset on, whatever. And I'm sitting there enjoying myself typing on the laptop. This is a close-up of that picture of the pieces of equipment. Now, it doesn't take up that much room, really. You know, if you think about how to set these things up. This picture, we did an activation at the Burlington Farmers Market at Burlington City Hall Park. We got no credit for this. City Hall Park is not in either program, but we were just doing this to put ham radio on display. And you see all these people wandering around. For this, we put up actually a boom microphone to make it look like a radio station. The problem with this, and I'll tell you how to improve on this. When you have a ham station surrounded by a bunch of food vendors, people will go to the food before they go to the ham radio. So next time we'll hand out chocolates. This was a nice activation. This is Alice State Park in central Vermont, which is also a SOTA, Summit on the Air site. And, you know, we use anything we can. So we hit the 60-foot fire tower. So we hung dipoles. You can't see it in the picture, but there's a dipole going off this fire tower to a big tree over here. I think that's 40, and the 20 was going this way. Oh, we kick ass. Unbelievable. We had a massive pile. But that antenna was really high. And then, at a certain point, I said, okay, we're going to change call sign and do a SOTA activation. So we went from W1NVT to W1SJ, pulled the generator out, because you can't use a generator for SOTA. We just stuffed the battery on there, and just continued. We had this massive pile of like 150 per hour. And the SOTA guys, you're not supposed to have a pile of SOTA. You know, where's this written? I said, maybe we were just that good, you know. And for a half hour, it was the same. Then the battery died. I said, all right, we're going back to the park activation. We charged the battery up, and we did it again. So, whenever you're doing these things, you always have to ask yourself the question, are we having fun? And the answer is yes, keep doing it. So antennas. So with an antenna, you don't want to skip on the antenna. That's the most important part of the operation. And like I said, a dipole, you know, 50 feet in the air works wonders. And make sure you can get on these 20 and 40 meters. Those are your money bands. You want to scout the area. So when we get to a park, for about 10 minutes, we do nothing but just walk around, looking at trees and whatever. You know, where are we going to put the 66-foot long dipole for 40 and the 33-foot long dipole for 20? Well, what kind of antenna do you use? Just a dipole. 468 over F with coax. We also use a Cobra ultralight. I saw them out there in the flea market. Instead with open wire line, we can put that on anything. So sometimes I will use that because I go from band to band on CW. So you want to leave adequate spacing if you have multiple stations. You want to separate them by a couple hundred feet. Try to keep the dipoles broadside to key areas. If you're high enough, the dipole will null a little bit off the ends. Not so much on 40, but on 20 it will. So, keep it generally broadside. And with a multi-band antenna, you gotta use open wire line. I learned that the hard way. I had my 40-meter dipole and I was using it on 20, and I never did really well on it. The reason is, when you have a high SWR, if you're using a full wave antenna, SWR is ridiculously high, you're going to lose the power in the coax. Not a good thing. If you have open wire line, it's pretty much loss free. So that's something to think about. You just want to put up one antenna and go everywhere. Have a foolproof method to raise that antenna. Don't sit there trying to keep throwing a rock over a tree. First of all, you're going to get tired, and secondly, people are going to kind of like laugh at you. You kind of look stupid doing this. So make sure if you have a compressed air launcher or a slingshot or whatever, you can put that line exactly where you want it on the first shot. And I just did an activation. All the kids in the campground were watching it and thinking, oh, crap, the pressure's on now. If I screw up, they're all going to laugh at me, right? So be good with your instrument and be safe with it. With a launcher, you're launching an 8-ounce ball. You fill them with shot so that it pulls down over the tree. You don't want to plunk somebody in the head with that. That would be very ungood. You don't want to also hit someone's car with it either. So you want to make sure you know where that ball's going to go. You want to make sure people are safely back. Make sure you have good safety. So I'm going to inject some of my things. Use a good manual tuner. I don't like auto tuners. Auto tuners are a real pain in the butt. They're for lazy hams. If you're a real ham, tune your own thing. You'll do a better job at it than the auto tuner will. Really. When you set the station up, you get the tuner so that it's in the ballpark and you write those numbers down. Then you just go back to the numbers and you do a quick thing. The auto tuners, sometimes they get affected by RF, Bob's thing. If you push some button, it goes off. And they don't always give you the best match either. So, that's my thing. If you're too lazy to use a manual tuner, really, stay home. And make sure in your park they don't not allow antennas. We don't have that problem. I did this talk in Dayton, and they said in Michigan they don't allow them to put antennas in the trees. I'm not sure why this is. Just talk to the park people and know what you're doing with it. If that doesn't work, move. I don't see any compelling reason to be in Michigan. We have much better states, right? You're going to sit there and be that way. Maybe that's crazy. They do have prohibitions against generators. We'll cover that in a minute. So this is the launch that AB1FRW built. So the way this works is you put a compressor, a little compressor you do your tires with. You pump this tank up to in this particular case, 35 psi per square inch. We'll get this ball over onto the tree. This is a weighted tennis ball, so we put shot in it, which means that you don't want to lose the ball because then we're looting the whatever it has lead in it. Put it in there, and this is a cannon. You have to think, so don't look down the barrel. Really. Somebody sent me a video of the Taliban where a guy's playing with a gun or whatever. And he's looking down the thing and shoots himself in the head. I don't believe they posted this picture. Don't be that guy. Don't point this at anything important because your hand can slip into the trigger. So you got to be really cautious about this. This comes out with a tremendous amount of pressure. And you got to aim it, point it at the tree, make sure you look around, whatever. Put it firmly against your shoulder because there is some recoil. Put it over the tree. This is what it looks like when somebody using it. You aim it, whatever. If you want to get as close to the tree as possible so the line goes straight up and straight down, if you kind of shoot it at a low angle, it could very well end up in the next county. So for high power, the 500 watts, we use a small generator. We use a Honda 2009. Very light, very quiet, very efficient. Tank of gas will last 8-9 hours, which should be good for just about any activation. And we keep the generator 50 to 100 feet away from me. I don't want to listen to it. It's not that loud. I still don't want to hear it. And you don't want it to happen near anyone else either, because you don't want them to have to listen to it. You want to have a line filter. So a line filter is like maybe 10 turns of wire on toroid, keeps some of the noise out. And yeah, some parks don't allow generators at certain times, so we need to talk to them. Usually talk to them, what they do is they put us in a spot where there's a power outlet. So that's why you bring extra power cords. Oh, you want me to use your own power? Sure, I can do that, not a problem. So just make sure you bring yourself an accurate enough extension cord. I have to be careful with this because I'm pulling a lot of amperage with that ST200. If you use a cheesy little extension cord, you're going to lose all your voltage. Now, you can use your car electrical system if you're just running 100 watts. I've done this a few times. I don't like doing it. You put the voltmeter on the 12-volt always and watch it like a hawk. And even with that, you start your engine and run it for 5 minutes every half hour. If you don't do this, when you go to leave the park, click, click, not good. All right? So that's why I don't like to do that plan. There's an opportunity to screw up. You can use a high efficiency LiPo battery, lithium ferrous oxide, again for 100 watts. I don't even consider QRP, right? The LiPo batteries are very expensive though, so you know, I guess you put it on your Christmas list now and maybe you get it. So this is what the Honda 2000 Evo looks like, or I looks like. You put it in 8-ohm mode and it runs low throttle. You know, it throttles up when current happens. So really, really quiet. So logging, don't even think about people logging. Really, don't do it. First of all, it's inaccurate. You know, can you read your own handwriting later? I can't. Paper logs get lost. And by the way, if you're in a park and you're not in a shelter or whatever, the wind comes up and blows the logs away, so you spend more time chasing your log all over the park than actually working people. This has happened. Yeah, get yourself a reliable little computer, set it up so it's comfortable to use. You know, if the radio's here and the computer's here and you keep doing this, that's not good, right? You want to have it so it's comfortable. Don't rely on the computer battery. That battery will give out, you know, the old computer battery will give out in a couple hours. Because if you have a new modern computer with an electronic drive, you know, it lasts a lot longer. And have a backup computer just in case, because computers have a nasty backup. Computers kind of ring with Murphy's Law, they won't fail. At the end of the day, you got to generate an ADIF file. Okay, that's the file that goes between all computer logging programs. That's what gets uploaded to log the world, gets uploaded to WWFF and to POTA. And you're still going to have to modify things because those ADIFs don't include everything. You also want to have a gorilla file for paper log checking. Someone sends you a QSL card, you want to have a list of your stations work. I always will ask stations for their state. I want to know where I'm working, because sometimes that tells me how well the antenna systems work. So the radio now, use competitive radio. Conditions may be really poor, the noise may be very high. My choice is between my low-end DX70, liquid DX70, which, if I'm standing on a street corner somewhere, I'm going to use that, or my high-end K3. K3 can handle noise so much better. So that's the trade-off you have there when you make that trade-off. I find the 500 watt amp is the best power level. A lot of oomph, but easy to set up. So understand what you're doing when you go from 100 watts to 500 watts. That's like a little over an S unit, which doesn't sound like a lot. Like if you're already S8 and you got an S9, big deal. But more often than not, especially in 20 meters these days, it's like you're in the noise and you come out of the noise and be heard. That's a big deal. Or you're like S1 and barely copyable and you come out of the noise. That's what that amp will do for you. More people will be able to work it. So yeah, we have an old amp and a new amp. The SB200 basically exercises the generator a lot harder because it's pulling more current. So yeah, does it matter? You bet it does. I noticed it right away when we don't have it. And the term I use is band presence. People that tune across the band, you want them to find you. You're sticking out there in the middle of the band, that's where they are. And a lot of people will just call you because you sound interesting or whatever. So the modes, SSB, single side entry in the focus, that's where you're going to work most people. Like I said, if the people are there, I easily will put 150 in the log area out. Okay? Most people not that fast, and I'm a contest, so I do this all the time. But even if you're, a sub-sub operator, you can do 60, 70 an hour. But you got to be ready, willing, and able to do CW if the conditions are poor. 20 meters is not supported foam piles all summer. I go to CW. I go to CW, I work more like any other, most of the Europeans or whatever. So you have to have two things. One, you have to have a key or a memory where to do CW. You don't want to do it with a hand key, you can, but you don't want to. And you have to know CW. Yeah, this is an old buzzard ham, that's what most people do know CW. A lot of hams don't. And I don't even know CW, I can do FDA. FDA is slow as crap. I mean, it's great, but it doesn't have the performance. And it's kind of like what they say with a baseball player, a 5-tool player. You have a baseball player, all they can do is be a designated hitter, not much else. Not much value, right? That's a hand who can't do CW. There is a mode which is really important sometimes, particularly in the world of DX and whatever. You can't go there. And you don't have to learn it, but I would suggest that if you want to be a full hand and be able to do all the tricks of the trade, you at least get functional on it. So FT8 is an option. FT4, not enough people get on. FT8 is an option, but it's slow. In a good hour on FT8, you do maybe 20 an hour. Yeah, you'll be going along a good clip, and one guy who's not using an antenna will be like net 24 dB, and you got to go like 15 times to get it in the log, whatever that's like right now. So 20 an hour versus 50 to 100 an hour on former CW, that's a big difference. But here's even the bigger problem. You cannot exchange your part number on FT8. Your part number is going to be call sign, signal report, grid square, that's it. If you try and type other stuff in, it gets wonky, people not know what you're talking about, there's going to be mass confusion, if it sends it at all. So the only way to get around that is I just do it and I spot myself off. So W1NVT, I get the 7074 FT8 and I have the part number. So, and you hope that the guys working you know what it is they're looking for. But that's a problem with it. But you got to remember to bring the computer and the cable. Many times I forgot my FT8 computer cable, and then you can't do it. So on the air, before the event, announce your activation on the media. So go to the WWF sites, go to Facebook, let as many people know about it. Some people are looking for these parks. Call CQ. Again, they can't find you unless you're making noise somewhere. Cover the bands with the largest footprint. So in reality, if you just sit on 20 meters, you're basically telling the people within 600 miles of you, the hell with you, I'm not working. 600 mile skip zone. So it's like from here to Dayton, Ohio. For the most part, you're not going to work with people on 20 meters. It's from here up to Nova Scotia. You cover that on 40 meters. So 40 meters is 0 to 600 miles, and that's really not true. 40 meters itself has a skip zone of a couple hundred miles. The guys on a couple hundred miles, that's just really tough to get. You got to go on 80 meters to a park during the day, and it's a loss leader. You won't do it. But stick with the bands that give you the best bang for the buck. It says, yeah, you want to try all these weird esoteric bands, but ultimately only going to work 5 or 6 people. You're wasting time. So spot yourself profusely on the cluster. Don't piss people off. So I spot myself. I try to spot myself every time I change bands or modes, and usually maybe in a half hour. So people looking can find me, and I always spot myself with the call sign and the park number. A lot of guys will spot you, they won't put the park number down. They'll put SSB. Well, we know it's SSB, but that doesn't tell me anything. At least put down the state or whatever, So have a way to do this. The last activation I did, phones were not possible. No cell phone coverage, no repeater coverage, no nothing. It went to the end of the world. Got to the park right at the end of the street and said, end of the world, 1 mile. That's, yeah, kind of like that. So I tell them, hey, can you spot me if you can? And if you start working enough people, they will. Give your full sign phonetically and slowly. We teach our new operators to do this. not a race. So, you know, W1, I don't say W1 because the D and the T sound almost the same, right? And my call sign W1SJ and S and F and an X all sound alike beside it. If I don't give that phonetically, it'll get busted every time. So it's Whiskey 1 November, and then I pause, Victor Tango. Victor Tango is the one that says I'm in Vermont, right? Don't just say, you're on to make it. People are going to hear you. You want that loud and proud, man. You want them to hear that. And even doing that, guys, what's your call? What's your call? You know, you got to deal with it. So some of the activators, when they hear me on there, they just yell, park, 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 call sign, park, park. And they keep saying it. It's like the QRP guys, they just go, QRP, QRP. I don't care how much power you're running. I really don't care. I only care about your call sign and your state. That's it. Everything else is irrelevant to me. And so after I worked about 65 parks the last activation I did. And after about the 10th one, you really want to start reaching out and strangling necks. It's like, give me the call sign. If I put P to P, it will walk in the Netherlands. That's the prefix, right? I said, just give me the call sign. I will hear you. I'll either hear you or not hear you, but it won't matter. So, yeah, you know, what it is you want to communicate. Have enough operators to allow for breaks. So I did 3 parks in 2 days by myself, and I was pretty darn tired. Man, I had intense up, taking intense down 3 times, do all the operating, try to barbecue a burger while running a pilot. What you need is don't try this at home. It don't work. So yeah, having enough operators where you're having fun, you can take a break, it's great if you can get it. Take pictures and movies, my God, you know? I mean, document your fun. That's what this is all about. So in the aftermath, post the story and the pictures on the Facebook sites. Okay, let them know what you're doing, whatever, how much fun you have, who you work with, whatever. Post on your local club site. Maybe get people from your club to help you out. Don't forget to upload the logs to the logbook of the world and to WWF and POTA. If you don't know how to do this, ask others. You know, I mean, it is going to be a learning curve the first couple of times you do it. And then when you've done all that, plan your next activation. It's getting limited now because a lot of the parks close down for the winter. Half the parks in Vermont have to close down after Labor Day. And usually by the end of October, they're all done. But some parks are closed, but the gate is open. You can go in there. So some of those you can do that way. And again, you have to do your research. So then when you do this, you get some of these pretty little certificates. This is from WWF. It's the top 44. We were in the top 44 of all their activators in terms of number of QSOs. We only have maybe 30 activations over 4 years. We don't activate a lot. We do it a couple of times a summer. We're old guys, right? But every time we activate, we're doing like 800 QSOs. So we're way up there in the leaders. And then the POTA one looks like this: 1,000 kilo award, where we did 1,000 QSOs from one park. And look kind of impressed there with the 1,000. So, we don't do this for the certificates. We do it for the fun, but the certificates is fun afterwards. We can kind of brag about it. Hey, questions? Thank you. Yes?
You brought up the logging. That has been the worst part of activation sites for getting done. You know, the concept of POTA, fun, going on operating, fun, dealing with POTA people, and I was organized, we had a POTA picnic a couple of years ago, and it was like 6 times, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's like, oh, it's titled wrong, this and that, and so we used before N3XAP and had to convert it and all that.
Yeah.
So now
I hear your pain because I've been through this
right.
stuff too. And then they say, you know, WINVT, you're always complaining. I said, yeah, because you need to fix this. And this is about being fun, not being tedious.
And I guess the AWRL has something to do with it. Ben, the guy here, was the director last night. But anyways, I got the hammers app on my phone. Like, this is great. One of the guys on club uses it. It's wonderful. It's all in the POTA. Great. So, still sucks that it wasn't titled correctly. Because you hear my pain, that's the worst part. It's like, make it fun, you know?
Yeah, ultimately it's about finding the fun you want and ignoring the other stuff. That's what it is. And unfortunately for me, I do fly off the handle rather quickly sometimes when I see stuff like that. And I have to say, okay, we got to get this back to what I enjoy doing. And I still want to upload it because I want to give people opportunity to get credit for it, certainly.
And that's what I'm like, I feel bad for all these QSOs I've done. I've done 2 or 3 activations, no credit, and I submitted the logs, and nothing. I said, reply back to me, it's all volunteers.
And what I get is it cuts back to me, your log wasn't accepted.
Right.
Okay, what's wrong with it? Well, we don't have time for that. I said, you have to tell me what line it failed at, so I can I know how to fix it. I can write EDIF. I'm experienced at that level, but you got to tell me I can't go through 1,000 QSOs looking for the one missing comma or whatever, And so they started doing that. I kind of leaned on them. It failed here. Oh, okay, I can fix that. No problem.
Yep.
And so now at least he knows it doesn't work. Let me know what the problem is, and I'm only glad to make it work. I'm not happy that I got to do it all over again for 2 different programs, but I don't think that's ever going to get fixed. And the ARL has nothing to do with it. These are individual clubs that do their thing. The league has no say in this at all. So, you can activate and just say, the heck with it, I'm not uploading. But then if you don't upload, you get nasty grand emails. I get those too. So,
Yeah.
you can't win.
What is it?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Well, thanks for attending.
Well, thank you.